Adil, I'll give you the floor to introduce yourself, okay? When I call you Anhiba and Mossab, huh? I think we need to start the session, otherwise we won't have enough time to cover all the presentations. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dima Abu Diab. I'm the head of UN Habitat Jordan office. Welcome to our session on land for housing and slum transformation. It's an honor, actually, and privilege to be your moderator for this session and to guide today's discussion over the next 1.5 hours. This session will explore transformative solutions for land management and housing, with a particular focus on innovative practices and case studies from 5 countries in the region, including Djibouti, Egypt, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, and Oman. We will begin by examining land administration reforms and urban areas redevelopment efforts in Djibouti, showcasing how policy and planning can be harnessed to revitalize urban spaces. Next, we will also shed the light on cultural resilience, youth and housing, as well as land property rights during urban crisis, drawing on evidences from Egypt, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia. A case study from Muscat, Oman will explore how land distribution laws have contributed to urban sprawl, providing valuable insights into legislative approaches that can more effectively manage urban growth. The session also will highlight the critical role of geographic information system, GIS, in population and housing censuses, emphasizing their importance in improving environmental statistics and urban planning. We will also examine spatial planning and land management strategies designed for displacement in dry land regions, emphasizing the role of nature-based solutions in addressing the unique challenges in these areas. Through these discussions, we aim to provide practical insights on how to integrate land governance, spatial planning, and innovative technologies to improve housing access, transform informal settlements, and promote sustainable urban development across the region. I look forward to the conversations ahead and the valuable perspectives each speaker will bring to table in this session. So we will start our session with a presentation that was supposed to be provided by His Excellency Mr. Omar Ali, Director General of the General Directorate of Lands and Land Conservation in Djibouti. Unfortunately, he's not here with us today. So his colleague, Mr. Farhan Adwa, the head of Department of Technical Studies of Directorate General of Land in Djibouti, will present the presentation. The first technical paper is around reform of land administration and urban area redevelopment in Djibouti, and it will be provided in French, right, Farhan? Okay. The floor is yours, please. Use this one to move the slides. Can we show the first presentation, please, IT people? Yeah, please.
Is it Heba?
En touchant ici, excusez-moi. Après, pour faire défiler, c'est...
I think this one is moving the slides. Oh. Can we show the first presentation, please? The one related to Djibouti? Okay. Yeah, let's start it now.
Donc,
So, good morning to all of you. I would like to do a presentation on the reform of the land administration in the Republic of Djibouti. The General Directorate of the domain is just trying to set the context on the mission on our work, and then talk about the different components. So the General Directorate of the land conservation is a component of the Ministry of Budget. It was established in the 1930s by the colony, and since it was reformed many times, administrative reforms that came up with new orientations and new objectives as set up by the government. So the General Directorate of the Domain had a larger scope since 2000, or since the years 2000, because of our urban development policy that is accelerated and that is linked to the economic growth. Then, with the Law 99, that mandate the Law 53, since we have income, we are therefore under the Ministry of Budget, but since then it has become General Directorate with 6 services. So amongst the 3 components, there is the management of land, the management of the assets of the government, and also answer the needs of the government. So, as I said, it's one component of the budget department or ministry, and its main mission is to sell lands, and then it does the registration and manages the transfers and the collateral. So it is about strengthening the human and material capacity in order to guarantee the safety of the country. So among the missions that we do have in our administration, it is to implement the policy of the state, and also see what are all the issues that we do have in the government. So assess the assets of the state, and manage the different collaterals, and much more. So this is just to tell you that managing the slums is a concern for the government. So we do have projects that is ongoing, which is an integrated project to get rid of the slums. So we'll launch in 2016 a program that is called Zero Slums, for the improvement of the urban life and to give access to all. The objective, this is a program that was supported by the World Bank in order to strengthen the management of the urban life. So we do have a number of recommendations that are about the land rights, promoting the urban life and integration of administrative procedures, and management of taxes, land taxes, and introducing new technologies. In this framework, we did the capacity building, and we also increased our resources to answer the needs of the households in Djibouti, more specifically in the neighborhoods that need to be restructured, and for the household who will be living in those areas. So in Djibouti, the project Zero Slums was initiated by the government with the support of the World Bank, and it has for objective to bring new answers to areas that are more vulnerable, especially in the Balbala, where we have the most vulnerable people. So this project targets 25,000 habitats. So the components of the project is to have institutional tools, regulatory tools, and operational tools in order to implement our project Zero Slums, but also to attract participative investments for the rehabilitation of the urban zones that were chosen. So if I give you the target neighborhoods, so in most of the neighborhoods having informal habitats and constructions with temporary material do not take into account the existing urban plan. Therefore, there is a need for studies, for strategy, for urban reform. So among the 30 neighborhoods, we identified the surface area, the number of households, and also the communes that are covered. So this is just to show some images. The slums of Djibouti look like that. So I took one of the neighborhoods, and they don't have roads, sanitation, water, electricity, and therefore there is a lot of land issues and are not registered. These lands are not registered in the land authority, with the land authority, and are also vulnerable to climate change. So in our project Zero Slums, we have done detailed plan that allowed us to do a lot of intervention in the neighborhoods. So these everything in yellow are the new areas that are planned for in the neighborhood that didn't exist before. So thanks to this project, we set up software that's called ARC GIS. So all this is with the support of service provider. We also have a platform, and we digitalized 24,000 titles, and all of the documents were uploaded in the platform with the support of a local service provider. We also established a group. So we have also set up a station which has for objective to improve the land quality. So we have done some studies that allowed us to identify the different zones. So we have identified some points to be GS18 secondary. We also acquired some new land survey equipment in order to strengthen our teams. We also signed a convention for partnership for maintenance of the station, and we noticed that as of today, these conventions are signed for data sharing and also to strengthen the exchange of data. We have also done a first study to target the GS18 point. And also what you need to know, in Balbala, where we have the most slums, we set up a database for Balbala North. We also did capacity building for different topographers and topographic engineers. We also went to Rwanda in order to set up land management information system that is ongoing. So today we have already registered 5,554 titles. And to conclude, the main challenges that we do have, and we still have challenges, the centralization of the administration, reconstitution, capacity building, multiple course networks, legal framework and regulatory framework. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farhan, for sharing the experience of Djibouti in rehabilitating informal settlements and following an integrated approach where they include institutional tools, regulatory tools, and also participation, which is quite important in such context. And also thanks a lot for shedding the light on the key challenges that the country is still facing, and I believe that a couple of countries are still facing the issue of centralization. So now let's move to the second presentation, which is about cultural resilience, youth and housing, land and property rights during urban crisis, evidences from Egypt, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia. So this presentation will be presented by 4 researchers, starting with Dr. Siraj Said. Let me introduce you, Dr. Siraj, and then we can give the floor to other researchers to introduce themselves. So Dr. Siraj is a professor of law and development and director of Noon Center for Equality and Diversity at University of East London. An alumnus of Harvard Law School and Universities of London and Madras. He is a land and development expert and has worked extensively with international agencies, governments, academia, and civil society in over 24 countries around the world. In 2006, Said co-founded the leading global land tool network, GLTN, with over 85 partners, and is currently co-chairing the GLTN Academic and Training Cluster. He is also co-chairing the UN Habitat Stakeholder Advisory Group Enterprise, which regularly advises the UN Under Secretary General on Sustainable Cities, and has served as a member of the World Urban Forum Advisory Board, Abu Dhabi, Katowice, and Cairo. He also served as the chair of the UN Iraq Evaluation Commission, contributed to the drafting of laws in Somalia, and was the chief evaluator of the UN Future Saudi Arabia program. He has also published widely with funding from UN, UKRI, GCRF, GLTN, and NIHR. Welcome, Dr. Siraj. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dima. I didn't know that you were going to read that out and embarrass me like this. But thank you very much. It's a privilege to be part of our research team, and we'll be presenting an outline of our ongoing research, which is on youth cultural resilience in urban crises. So I'm just going to take 2 minutes because we are then going to be followed by case studies from Egypt, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia. Just to say that we're just coming, Heba and myself, from the Youth Assembly. It goes without saying why youth empowerment is intrinsically important, particularly important at this point of time in this region. And in terms
sorry, Doctor, IT people, can you please play the presentation?
Oh, sorry.
It's not shown yet. The second presentation, please.
No, that's okay. Yeah, this is only for the first 3 slides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm just covering the first 3 slides, so it doesn't matter where exactly the slide is. So just to say that the topic speaks for itself, why we need resilience, and especially the definition of cultural resilience is the ability of individuals and communities to cope and adapt to the challenging circumstances using cultural systems, practices, and so on. So apart from the formal, there's also, community and cultural practices that are there. I just want to frame this in the context of the new UN Habitat Strategic Plan, which actually looks at the issues of course, housing, land, and basic services. But when it talks about, for example, the continuum of land rights, we recognize not just the sort of formal tenure and the customary systems, but a whole lot and range of opportunities that arise. And particularly in the context of young people, we need to see them as both drivers of change as well as the future of what we do. So I'm just going to hand over to my illustrious colleague, Professor Heba Khalili, to take us through the first case study, which is on Egypt and beyond. I'm just trying to save time and come within the 15 minutes so that we can have time for question and answers. Thank you so much, Heba.
Thank you, Dr. Said.
Thank you for that. I will try to make this quick.
Would you like to move here?
Yeah.
Please.
So, can you have the slides? The same slides, don't change. Yes, thank you very much. So, I am Heba Khalil. I'm professor at Cairo University, professor of sustainable urbanism, and I'm also part of NILGA, the Network of Excellence in Land Governance in Africa. For our work with our colleagues here, we'll be sharing the issues that are within the Egyptian context. So, of course, now by the third day in the conference, you are all aware of all the issues that are there, specifically in various countries, and I'm sure a lot of you have already attended the presentations done by the Egyptian government and the various stakeholders. And so I will not go into details of the numbers of how many people are having problems with housing or with a provision of land for development. And of course, our continuous urbanization and encroachment on agricultural land. There are so many research in that sense. And of course, in Egypt, we live on a very small portion of our country. So, a lot of projects have been done in terms of participatory planning and youth engagement, whether from a scale of strategic city planning down to public space projects or public space upgrading. A lot of work has been done also with the Urban Development Fund, specifically in the past 2 to 3 years. Interestingly, we had an opportunity to work within a very interesting area within Cairo, which is specifically called Ard al-Liwa. Ard al-Liwa is an informal area that has been completely developed by people, by the community themselves. And it presented an interesting example, because at a point of time, 4 years ago, that we had a ban on new development. So the government decided that we ban all new buildings within the city for a certain time, which means that no further development is allowed in these lands. And interestingly, youth-led development recognized the need for various services. One of them is youth centers and sports facilities. So previously, no one would build a sports facility for anyone. Just build housing and that's it. And of course, with some commercial activities and so forth. So commerce at the ground level, and then the rest of the building is housing. But because of that ban and because of this kind of initiative that the youth took, they decided to communicate with the landowners. Now you have a piece of land, you cannot build the housing. Can we start a different project? So what they did is that they started these 2 community-led sports interventions. One, they are called Al Hurriya Sports Club. And you can see these 2 pieces of land with a very compact development area. And by time, they were actually recognized by the Ministry of Sports, and they became part of the Sports Federation. And in that model, what they did is that they identified a market need, a possible profit, and a different kind of collaboration setup. So these are just the photos of the land. It's a piece of land that used to be agriculture. Typically, it would have been built like the surrounding buildings, the brick and mortar, high-rise buildings. And what they did is they just started having a football field and a self-defense area for sports like karate and so forth. And So this is very popular among the young people over there, playing football, of course, and that's why they became part of the Sports Federation for entering the tournaments for sports. So although it is a community-led sports facility, but it became more formal. And interestingly, also, they built a pool. They never had a pool in that area, so no swimming. And building a pool within an informal area is quite interesting. And what they made it covered, so for privacy. They made it heated, so it is heated during winter time. And I went there with my students interviewing various people who are going there. We find like ladies who are veiled and even completely with a niqab going there, trying to learn how to swim. The facility offers this kind of service that was not there before. And even some of the people who were coming to this facility, they do not live there anymore, but their families still live there, so they are very much attached. So it's a very interesting model. That's why we took this further. We identified with my students all the lands that are of similar nature, and in that sense, inspired by their initiative, we try to come up with a land typology matrix and what could be the possible interventions. We identified a piece of land adjacent to a school. How can we also think about temporal use of this piece of land? Sometimes it is a parking space for the school buses, but what kind of other activities that could be done in other times of the week or other times of the day, of also having a sports facility. This awareness of the importance of sports facilities in this area was not there before, but because of this initiative of the youth, people from there, they started this process, and this facilitated our work with our students, thinking of also of the building, how it can accommodate various uses, and also of future extensions, how can this building stay evolving in future. So, I mean, these are just of some of the real facilities and how they inspired also students from our side to think in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hiba. Thank you very much. So we move to the second speaker, which is Dr. Adel. Sit. Right?
No, Musab will work.
Musab first, okay. So it's not on order. Yeah. Could you briefly, Musab, introduce yourself before you start?
Hello, everybody. I'm Musab Riyashi. I'm an agricultural engineer and biodiversity research officer. And I've had the chance to work with this great team on this research paper, and I'm here to present the Moroccan context. So, as a beginning, as the OECD's National Urban Policy Previews notes, Morocco has an urban population of 65%. That is very centralized in major cities such as Casablanca, Rabat, Tangier, where in the cities that act as the economical power for the country. A lot of we also see that a lot of young people in Morocco have shifting culture and social attitudes and aspire for better lifestyles, which leads them to migration, either internally or externally, and there's also urbanization that creates choice over land use, livelihood, transitions, housing, and sustainable urban development in Moroccan context. Focusing on Morocco's green youth strategies and city planning in Rabat, Morocco. In the case of Morocco, cities such as Casablanca and Rabat, with their innovative public services provided through city development, public transportations, parkings, and many other new projects that are currently under development. That shows a high level of satisfaction of quality of life facilities and green spaces, such as Casablanca's new finance city, with its big project of integrating biodiversity and green spaces to the city of Casablanca. That has a very serious problem with green spaces for a long time. In another side, we see Rabat that has benefited from infrastructure development and economical optimization. However, it affected housing market, both from by foreign influence and also internal influence due to the rapid urbanization and the growth of population in the city, which leads youth to settle down in surrounding cities such as Ain Auda or Sidi Yahya Zair or Sabah or Sla Jadida. And the problem with those cities is that you need to think of a new, a more efficient transportation system that could control the flow back to the cities, which is the case now with the new project of 2030. So just a simple presentation of the topology of housing in Morocco, housing sectors. As we said before, that 64% of majority of urban households live in modern Moroccan houses. But there was also the problem of slums. And recently Morocco did a lot of efforts in reducing slums in major cities such as Rabat, with transportation of more than the replacement of more than 12,000 of them to cities that are near the settlement.
Musab, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yes.
Yes. Go directly, please, to the
I will
subject.
go quickly
because you still have your colleague also to present the
yes.
third case study.
I go quickly through the markets. The markets. So we have also the as we said before, the problem of prices. As we can see in major cities such as Rabat, the apartment price per meter square is very high, around 15,000, while in some cities that are around it, it's like for Saleh, it's 8.5, for Kinitra it's 7.4, for Mohammedia it's also very high. And this also creates a problem for the youth and their accessibility to land and housing. For the governance improvement, as the evaluation of the governance urban in a housing space as a potential solution is the implementation of coordinating regional, economical, and social, cultural, environmental development as an integrated key in the economical development. And yeah, this brings an end to the Moroccan context and for housing space, and I'll leave for Saudi Arabia.
Thank you so much, Musab. Thank you. So we move now to Dr. Adel, who will talk about the case study of Saudi Arabia.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I know we're short on time, so we'll
we
try
need to
and
give
make
the chance to
as
other
quick
speakers.
as
We still have
possible.
3 speakers.
Can we please have the slides back? Yeah. Okay. In a previous life, I used to work for a company called Bureau Happold, which did a lot of project work in Saudi Arabia. So I was based in Riyadh. And this case study comes out of that work. So Saudi Arabia has a key issue in terms of rapid urbanization, but very unsustainable urban development with large urban sprawl, and also a climate crisis that is emerging in terms of flooding, temperature, storms, also droughts and other things. And the graph here just shows kind of what the rapid kind of urbanization has been in Riyadh and Jeddah, for instance. If we can go to the next slide, please. Yep. So what the response has been through the UN Habitat Future Saudi Cities program was to think about this in a different kind of way in terms of smart city indicators. So thinking about the data that we have and the evidence and trying to draw that together in order to build better urban policy. For example, thinking about the issue of transport or the issue of housing, etc., which were identified as key priority areas. Young people featured in this because of their use of digital communications, and technology as a digital generation, as they've seen in Saudi. One of the projects that I worked with was the Riyadh downtown redevelopment. So in this project, we took the historic core of Riyadh and we replanned it in terms of the master planning. So this was led by the Royal Commission for Riyadh City, but a lot of consultants were involved because of the cultural dimensions, thinking about areas that had historic value to the communities that lived there, but also the different kinds of spaces, green space, public space, etc., because this was going to be the economic hub of transformation. I just wanted to point out the interesting role and the parallel with Morocco in terms of the Riyadh city walls, for instance. The historic feature, the legacy of the past, but that being used to demarcate the area and improve accessibility within, while doing all of these kind of reroading projects, etc. This also comes in along with other initiatives. So, for example, the Riyadh Metro project, which aims to shift the percentage of the population that are using cars, which is about 70 to 80%, to a much lower proportion of that, because transport is a key part of that emissions puzzle and that environmental puzzle in Saudi Arabia. So, sorry, if I can just go back. Can we go to the previous slide? Is it so comparing these three case studies, what we see is very different approaches to similar urban challenges that face the Arab region. So in Egypt, what we see is informal settlements, refugee crisis, housing demand, climate impacts, and really what Professor Heba Khalil presented was a bottom-up participatory approach, right? Local initiatives involving young people in spatial planning to improve quality of life, to create ownership. In Morocco, it's the opposite. We see the same trends of rapid urbanization, housing need, rising prices, climate impact, but with a national urban strategy, a polycentric model where different cities kind of work within a national framework, and there's public-private sector cooperation. In Egypt, Saudi Arabia even, we see similar issues of unsustainable transit, housing, climate, etc. But the model is to do with very top-down transport planning, digital urban governance, urban regeneration, trying to invest in data to build these solutions. So what can we actually learn from this? It's that really these three countries are experiencing different types of urban crises, and their responses are locally driven. They're dependent on the governance context. Youth aren't always recognized as a key category. They're actually missing and very easy to ignore when we deliver urban solutions. And this is because HLP rights in particular are not seen as a priority. It's other groups and categories who are put in the center of the debate. And urban challenges that we're seeing are exacerbated by all of these economic, social conflict and other factors. In terms of what UN Habitat, all of you in this room can do, is you can think more about the needs of diverse young people in all of the contexts that you work in, to address what matters to them by bringing their voice back into your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adel. Thanks a lot for the researcher, for the interesting case studies. I was very interested in the case study of Egypt, engaging communities and implementing sport activities, and it's quite important to adapt these challenges to the context of the Arab region and also look at these challenges from the lens of youth, culture, and other aspects. Also, the researchers highlighted the importance of having adequate and affordable public transport systems. And I was in Riyadh last month or last December, and I used actually the metro that started operated in that city, which is quite a car-oriented city, and it helped a lot in alleviating the traffic congestion in that city. Thanks a lot. So we move to the third presentation, which will be presented by Dr. Walid Al-Wahibi. Dr. Walid will present for us the technical paper on the impact of land distribution laws and urban sprawl, case study from Muscat, Oman, تأثير قوانين توزيع الأراضي على الزحف العمراني، دراسة حالة مسقط. Let me introduce first Dr. Walid is an experienced urban and rural planner with over 20 years of experience at the Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning. He specializes in sustainable development, land use planning, GIS-based spatial analysis, and infrastructure projects, as well as ensuring compliance with zoning laws and enhancing urban policies. He holds a master's degree in urban and rural planning from Beijing Jiaotong University, I hope I spelled it correctly, and a bachelor in environmental civil engineering and a diploma in survey engineering from Muscat. Please, the floor is yours, Doctor. I can go, yeah. Is this the first slide?
The first page.
Okay. That's the green one.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Good day, everyone. My name is Engineer Walid Al-Wahibi from the Sultanate of Oman. I am a graduate from the University of Beijing in Urban and Rural Planning Masters. In this presentation, I am going to deliver a presentation about the impact of land distribution laws on urban sprawl in Oman. I chose this title because my job is related to planning in land, and the second reason is when I went to China for my master's degree, and also one of the experiences I had in land distribution and urban sprawl studies, and also the review of many studies from students, international students and professors, I came with a conclusion that in Oman, in Muscat, the land distribution is a very interesting case. This study has the methodology, discussion, and results in different points. First of all, I'm going to give you a background about the topic. The economy of Oman depends on oil, therefore therefore urban expansion. And from this, new housing policies came into the surface. The problem, as I said before, the laws of land distribution in Muscat and neighboring Gulf countries are different from the rest of the world. The first question is, how does those laws affect urban sprawl in Muscat? Where are we now, and what are the regulations and laws that affect urban development in Oman and Muscat since 1923? Since the 1970s, what we are having now are accumulations of things that started from this date. The goal of this study is to understand the relationship between spatial strategy of Muscat and its role in the management of urban sprawl to achieve different goals. The framework of this research is, first of all, we had to come up with data and analyze it to answer the questions of this research. This study was in the governorate of Muscat, which is 4,000 square kilometers. The methodology used sources such as the Ministry of Information and the National Center for Statistics and Information, the United States Geological Survey, Residents of Muscat, and Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning. And also we collected data. Through interviews and polls, built up plans, data on granted lands and land distribution laws, and also there were two stages of analysis which went through different stages. The results and analysis, if you please pay attention to the map, because the data is changing with time. This change means or is about the urban sprawl during different periods in Oman. We saw that land sprawl expanded from 1970 to 2023. The timeline of urban sprawl, there was an expansion. The largest urban sprawl was between 2010 and 2023, and it was 2,343 square kilometers. These are some examples of the change caused by urban sprawl. This is from 1970 to 2023. There are obvious changes in infrastructure and urban sprawl from 1970 to 2023. This showcases how cities developed and how this developed, how those or these places developed through time. In some places as well, in Muscat, urban sprawl in Muscat we see that this land sprawl is very difficult because it does not allow for infrastructure. There was a poll in this place. We tried to describe changes caused by land sprawl and its results and how it affects in the environment, and also the suggestions to develop ways and tools to deal with urban sprawl. There was also an interview, or there was also a questionnaire which took into consideration how much time people spent in those places. Can we please end, doctor? We are going to take some data from one question from analyzing this questionnaire.
Use with the experts and the policy makers to draft policies regarding the aspirations of the community. We do apologize, our best friend is reading fast. One question is, what are the considerations for the policy of the distribution of the land? And the answer, it includes the household stability, sustainability according to the Vision 2040. This graphic, it shows what is going on in Oman, and we consider that there is a Sultan decree. It was in 2014, and also there is a change in the Ministry of Housing, and of course, there were many other activities that were adopted in 2016, and this reiterate that the government catch up or involved the other administrations in the management of this dossier or file. Debate or discussion for the land distribution. This has been changed as a legal framework since 1970 to 2023, and 2021 law was amended related to any activities to the land. And also we shed light on the amendments regarding the age groups and the target groups, and this reflects the amendments and the distribution of the land. This was added related to the construction of the lands. And also we have made an operation that is conducted at a comprehensive level, nationally or regionally wide. And also until the piece of land is provided to the citizen. Can we finish, Doctor, please?
ايوه طبعا هذه طبعا قمت بالاراضي الموزعه والاراضي المبنيه، واستنتجت بان من خلال هذه النتائج استنتجت بان الحكم.
So we have concluded that since the 70s to the 90s that there is a movement in the urbanization, and post the 90s there was a problem among all the different lands from 2010-20. And we conclude with the recommendations and the findings. It is necessary to talk about the distribution of the land in 2021, especially when it comes to the tasks related to building the infrastructure to enhance sustainable. This is impossible. Thank you.
I'll leave it for this. For sharing the experience of Oman, it's quite important to update the regulatory frameworks of our countries to cope with the current challenges, urban challenges. Now we move to the fourth technical paper for Ms. Inas Harabiyat about the importance of using geographic information system in the general population and housing censuses in supporting development environmental statistics in Jordan, in the case of Jordan. Let me introduce Ms. Inas Harabiyat. She's an environment and climate change statistics expert. She's working in the Department of Statistics in Jordan. She has more than 15 years of experience. She's a focal point with Europe Environment Energy for 10 years, and she's specialized in sharing environmental information system. And she's working in environmental and climate change indicators and also sustainable urban development indicators. And she's been working with internal stakeholders such as Ministry of Environment in Jordan, Ministry of Energy, Public Affairs, and Water in many thematic key issues and policy strategies and information system. The floor is yours, Inas. Thank you. Please stick to 15 minutes, Inas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
يعطيكم العافية جميعا. راح أبلش بال
The components of this presentation is going to be a presentation, the problematic, the importance of the study, the goals, questions, analysis and research, and then results and recommendations. As you know, the society faces, the international society as well as local society faces different environmental challenges which affect life, and it hampers social and economic development. and it does also hamper investments in, as well.
المناحي المختلفة.
And this requires develop data information that is ranked in a way that serves everyone. The study, many countries implemented in certain countries, and it is extended every 10 years according to the recommendation given by the UN. The data is comprehensive and important. The study is relating it to the environmental statistics and its capacity to give an overall idea about the outskirts, as we have seen in the presentation of Oman. There is a change in terms of the diachronic of time. So this would enable the data users to have comparative and a way to read the reality and proactive planning, long-term visions in order to preserve the resources and to have to preserve the high-quality life. So we will talk about the practices of the cadastral and also the statistics related to the outcome or the findings of the population all over Jordan, and also to support data and to realize the objectives of sustainable development. So, in order to serve the environment through using cadastral, what are the needs of the statistics, and how can be developed to realize the SDGs as resources, fundamental resources for the statistics. What are the SDGs objectives related to the population? We're talking about here countries do that in order to have accurate numbers, especially when it comes to the demography and economy, and also to give information about housing units, and this relation is ties to the well-being of the population and the facilities according to the specific studies. Jordan in 2020, last census, we had satellite pictures all over Jordan. So we had a survey, So this census was used to monitor the land and also to get rid of used waters. These are important indicators to realize the well-being and also a comprehensive planning and have a fixed database for the decision makers to have future plans and to develop the strategies. how can we benefit from the findings? It is true, having the legal framework supported by new cadastral that is in tune and in line with any environmental sphere. Also, we need to improve and to examine the quality of air. So from this data, we can work in parallel to control the kind of air. So these components, like the wasteland, the animal reserve, and so on and so forth. So the census provides many indicators that can represent a boost through which we can prepare reports like the climate change, SDGs, and also have an entire system for energy, water, green development, green economy, recycling, and so on and so forth. What are the needs for this census and how can it be developed? So linking among all of that, a connection is a dire thing, and it is a challenge. And all these regimes need to preserve or restore a policy and have access to database. We need internal governmental, intergovernmental cooperation and collaborating with the private sector and to benefit from the data and to build policy that can enhance this partnership. Also to prepare the infrastructure that is good with the cutting-edge programs, data, qualified personnel. So this is what we need. And also capacity building, coordination with all the protagonists and the decision makers. Thank you.
Sticking to the time, Inas, and for sharing Jordan's experience in mainstreaming spatial analysis and the national housing censuses, and also for mainstreaming climate change indicators also in these censuses. This is quite important, and UN Habitat Jordan was one of those agencies who benefited actually from the presence of air quality stations and some of the areas where we implemented the climate change risk assessment in Sahab area. Thank you so much. So we move now to the last presentation by our colleague Jia Kong Ang. So Jia will be sharing the experience of designing for displacement initiatives, spatial planning, and land management strategies and nature-based solutions for protracted displacement in dry land regions. So Jia is a program management officer at UN Habitat headquarters. She's based in Nairobi, Kenya. With a focus on advancing sustainable development agendas, Jia leads initiatives that promote urban resilience and inclusive growth while bridging environmentalism, humanitarianism, and development. Over the last decade, she has been instrumental in addressing complex issues such as climate-induced migration, protracted displacement in urban areas, and refugee camp transitions globally in various regions and countries. Jordan was one of them. She works closely with local communities, governments, international organizations, academic institutions, as well as the private sector on daily basis. Gia works reflects a dedication to collaborative problem solving and empowering communities through participatory planning processes. The floor is yours, Gia.
Thank you very much, Dima. Could I just get the slides up, please? Okay, great. So good, I think afternoon, everyone already.
شكرا لكم جميعا على حضوركم معنا اليوم. سوف أتحدث حول النزوح، وسوف تسمعون عن التخطيط العمراني كثيرا مني وكيف يرتبط هذا بالموارد أو استعمال الموارد.
So as already shared with colleagues as well, my focus has been largely on the trend of displacement globally. We're looking at that with several different root causes, several different phenomena that happen, and it spans across whether it's conflict, whether it's specific different kinds of disasters, as well as the impacts of climate change. And specifically in this region, we're obviously noticing a trend of a polycrisis situation where it often is not just one root cause that actually results in displacement or migration movements. We're expecting globally that this trend increases to 216 million people by 2050. We're also identifying that a lot of settlements and communities that are affected by displacement are often located in already fragile situations. It could be in climates that are hostile. It could be where ecosystems are more fragile, for instance. And so this discussion happens at the level and at the sphere, I would say, between what is traditional humanitarian and emergency response, but also long-term development response, and specifically perhaps in this region as well, a consideration for how peace factors into that conversation also. Sorry, I keep double-clicking by accident. No, but just a little bit more about the work that we're doing at UN Habitat at the Planning, Finance and Economy section, specifically under this area of work on crisis and migration. We're looking across 4 pillars. We're looking really at urban recovery and response. What does that look like in urban areas, specifically which are hard hit, where reconstruction is happening? We're looking as well at the trend of migration across the board. We're looking at economic migration. We're also looking, obviously, at forced migration patterns and displacement patterns as well. Our work also touches on refugee camps, camps that are built initially with the intention of being temporary, but obviously due to protracted displacement, you see refugees and asylum seekers live in camp-like or camp conditions specifically for several decades. And lastly, actually, how do we address these 3 pillars of work, also looking at the changing climate? The first project I would like to actually briefly mention as well touches on the second area of work, which is on urban migration. We have, through funding from the Swiss government, projects in Jordan, Egypt, and in Cameroon, where we are looking at implementing urban planning strategies, prioritizing infrastructures, and linking to potential financing or financiers using a 3-step methodology. I will briefly introduce that further. The first step is really, as an urban planner for us, is to use planning as a tool, as a platform, as a discussion with the communities. Planning is a tool, the discussions are the process, and we, and in this case for UN Habitat, we're the mediators. Very often we don't have the solutions stem from the communities themselves, and we believe that evidence-based planning, spatial analytics can actually provide the first foundational step in terms of what is there already as a baseline in terms of infrastructure. So we're looking across the board. We're looking at what currently exists, what currently exists in terms of housing and infrastructure, basic services. We're also trying to understand specifically in these areas what are the specific land management processes like. The second step that is part of this toolkit is really the how we can actually develop a vision. There are many interchangeable words and languages that you can use for this, but for us we use vision because it's an idea, it's a goal that is shared by the people in the specific area. So specifically, where we're looking at, sometimes it's hosts and refugees. In some situations, we're looking at hosts and IDPs, as well as governments and various other stakeholders. So together with the community, a vision statement is built and scenarios are being examined. Scenarios, for instance, that look in the case of like, oh, maybe what would the city be if there was an influx coming in? Another scenario would be what would the city look like if it was actually the complete opposite, if there was a big outflow of migrants, for instance. So those are some of the processes that we discuss as part of this process. The third step of this toolkit is how we can actually prioritize infrastructure, or rather prioritize aspects within this vision. So you have a long list, and that's tricky. You don't know what is most important, what are the categories or the criteria that people need to look at in terms of, or even decision makers look at in terms of determining what kind of infrastructures you should put in place. So as part of this project, we really went down into the nitty-gritty to actually come up with indicators that are agreed upon across all stakeholder groups to define what is most important. And in the case, it could be that it's a low-hanging fruit. It's something that can be easily achievable but would have a massive impact. Or it could be something that is medium to long-term, but is also maybe more achievable than something down the line that it requires a big level of investment. So we're weighing that. We're trying to balance between that and find a solution that works across all parties. And specifically, what we do as well is link that work to financing or to financiers. One of the things that we struggled with was, who wants to finance these projects? If local governments or if national governments do not have the capacity or the funding to, then what kind of financing mechanisms can be put in place? What kind of financiers might be interested in discussing this further? So that was also one of the considerations that we had. And the last part, which actually stretches across the methodology, is ensuring that the knowledge that is gathered within these cities, multiple cities within each of these countries, can actually be shared. It's also ensuring that if there's any form of capacity that has been taught or learned with stakeholders is kept and retained. Because we also know from recent processes, global processes as well, that international humanitarian aid, for instance, is something that can be very often fleeting. So something a bit more sustainable and longer lasting would be generally a better intended as well. So that is the short brief that I have for this project. Today's focus, instead, I'll dive right into, is also threading on the lines of migration, but specifically on designing for displacement. And this is a piece of normative work that this team of colleagues, working across these different pillars have really worked on over the last couple of years. It's been contextualized in dryland context because we're headquartered in Kenya. The example is that I'll showcase to you is from northern Kenya, and it's looking at a region that is increasingly facing the impacts of desertification and becoming a dryland as well, with intermittent seasonal rivers. The intersecting issues that we're looking at, and which is also something that we felt was very relevant for this region as well, several countries in this region as well, firstly is acknowledging the change in climate and the regions, or we're seeing states or specific localities actually drying. The impacts of desertification we have seen from the reports of the IPCC and from global trends is worsening. We're looking in the case, specifically in this region as well, the quality of soil, resource scarcity. We're also looking at biodiversity, habitat loss. So this is of great concern. The second intersecting issue is that we're also looking at the current rate of forced displacement coupled with the current level of protraction of this displacement becomes a huge issue. And when these issues of the changing climate as well as displacement is compounded and added up together, you're looking at a crisis that is not just pertinent in specific regions, but it's increasing massively across many regions and worth discussing and exploring further. And the third is not so much an issue, but as I mentioned, is more of a tool, which is the ability to use evidence, to use data through urban planning, spatial planning, and design to find solutions, hopefully to bridge these considerations. I'll just skip because of time. So just a show of hands. Does anyone know Kakuma refugee camp in northern Kenya? Okay, that's great because that means I have more to share with you. So this camp has been in place in Turkana County in northern Kenya for the last more than the last 3 decades. But it was first implemented as a temporary camp. Camp 1 was implemented, with the Lost Boys of Sudan, a group of boys that actually traveled from Sudan to escape the conflict there and to reside in northern Kenya. And since then, the camp has slowly been increasing in size. You've got Kakuma Refugee Camp 1 to 4, but you also have a new settlement that has been gazetted in the last 9 years because of the overcapacity within the refugee camp. And I'd like for you to pay attention specifically to the river that actually runs right through the camp over there. Oops, sorry. That is Taraj River. And what happens is that the river dries, and during the rainy season, it floods. You've got a camp that is located very close, if not right directly on the border of the river. And we're looking at, the levels of erosion that can wash a school away. We're looking at levels of erosion that completely wash and destroy a road that connects between these camps away due to a changing season in an environment that is increasingly desertifying. So we're looking at people trying to manage living with waterborne diseases in specific seasons, the loss of infrastructure, the loss of access, several different compounded issues. This is just a photograph of what the river can look like one day to another. On the left, it's not even the highest level of flooding, and on the right, it's not even I would say, the driest extent that the river can go as well.
Can we conclude, Gia?
Yep. So what we tried to do is to find opportunities, a combination of ecological and landscape strategies, as well as economic development and livelihood strategies through integrated design proposals. I'll be flying through some of these slides just because of time. So what we've done specifically is to identify different landscape strategies that can be applied within this context. We've mapped it across different kinds of water collection, water harvesting typologies. And then we've also mapped economic development and livelihood strategies. In this specific case, we're looking at approaches that support environmental management. We're also looking at specific livestock value chain development, as well as public service and infrastructure-related livelihood opportunities. I won't be able to dive too deep into this because of the issue of time, unfortunately. But essentially, the part that I'm really excited to show you about is how this manifests as spatial design proposals. So in this case, for instance, in the dry season, you're looking at the combination of permeable rock dam, ecological landscape strategy coupled with bench terraces to create vegetated seasonal public spaces. In the wet season, you're seeing this amphitheater potentially be able to fill up. Same for this spatial design proposal. We're looking at a sand dam orchard and public space. We're using in this space, relatively cheap technologies like the sand dam construction in the dry season. In the wet season, for instance, you can get many agriculture activities that are happening. And lastly, this example on water spreading bunds and kitchen gardens, largely resided in residential areas, where you use the technology of water spreading bunds, composting baskets as well, that can actually hopefully improve quality and yields within the plots across the different seasons. So I hope you've managed to gather a little bit of the idea that I'm trying to bring across from today's presentation, but if you'd like to learn more, please do reach out. Happy to speak later on more as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Gia, for your presentation. We have a couple of minutes for any questions from our audiences. So is there any question from your side to the esteemed speakers? Yes, please. Can we give the mic to the lady over there, please? Sorry? Yeah, we're waiting for the mic. Please bear with us. Okay. So we'll start with the lady and then the gentleman over there.
Bonjour, c'est Nada, étudiante à l'Institut national d'aménagement d'urbanisme ici à Rabat. Donc, j'ai dit, je suis étudiante à l'Institut national d'aménagement et d'urbanisme à Rabat. Tout d'abord, je tiens à vous remercier tous.
I would like to thank you for your presentation and for I have just some questions in terms of management. You indicated the restriction here in Morocco.
Ils font la construction.
Are you going to have the same procedures in order to make management?
French, and I did not capture your question. To whom are you asking this question? To which speaker?
Bonjour.
I would like to thank you. Your question is very pertinent. The case of Djibouti, especially the case, there is a planification of management. What we are going to do, we have to target the places. There are many.
Ces quartiers.
What we are calling there is a zone that was planified and restructured. In this case, there is accompaniment, and there are try to cope up with these people and to see. So as we can say that we are ready and we are to compensate them either the networks and all the costs that can be given in order to rehabilitate this place.
شكرا لكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
I want to, my question is with the goal to obtain a practical answer. I believe that one of the main goals of the efforts of countries in order to protect land is to open space for agricultural land as well as housing. In the Arab world, according to statistics, general statistics, youth represent a huge percentage or essential percentage of the population. But most of the Arab countries, including Morocco, put a lot of effort in supporting low-income groups, and there is a progress, tangible progress in this regard. However, when it comes to housing for youth, which represents a huge percentage in the Arab world, I don't see any special policies or support for youth access to housing. I want the institutions and organizations in this conference, I want them to come up with recommendations and regulations and measures to shed light on this problematic, the problematic of youth access to housing, as it is very important. It is also a hurdle in front of the youth in order to achieve their future goals. And I want some recommendations and measures in this regard, and I want a tangible result, because housing for youth is very important, and in the midst of the economic problems the world suffers from now, it is very difficult for youth to access housing. It is not a question, it's a note, I believe. Thank you for your observation. Youth are a very important part of in the Arab world, and they are very important. Today there is going to be a declaration at the end of the session. And I hope that there are going to be some recommendations regarding this aspect.
Go ahead.
Cellule de cartographie au sein du ministère de l'aménagement du territoire et de l'urbanisme en l'Union de Comores. Deux questions pour le cas de Riyad. Quelles sont les procédures de sécurisation foncière pour les populations? Deuxième question, comment vous avez concilié le droit coutumier et les politiques foncières modernes? J'ai aussi deux questions pour le cas de Djibouti sur le projet Zéro Bidonville. J'aimerais bien savoir quelles sont les stratégies qui sont envisagées pour éradiquer ces bidonvilles. La deuxième question et la dernière est comment le projet s'inscrit-il dans la politique nationale de l'urbanisme et de l'habitat? Merci.
Also, sorry, the interpretation did not also again mention the name of the speaker. Sorry. Is it Gia? Are you asking Gia and Djibouti? Okay. I don't understand the French. Please speak Arabic or English.
Pour les questions de... Donc, je vais d'abord commencer à répondre des questions pour Djibouti. Comment éradiquer les bidonvilles? Donc ça, c'est une question très importante. Et l'objectif d'abord du projet Zéro Bidonville, c'est de mettre d'abord tous les efforts pour éradiquer les bidonvilles des 13 quartiers cibles. Et je pense que déjà, nous en tant qu'administration foncière et cadastrale, donc il y a depuis des décennies, ces gens, ils n'avaient pas ce qu'on appelle un titre foncier définitif. Ils n'avaient pas donc les documents légaux pour accéder. Mais maintenant qu'il y a un plan de développement, un plan détaillé de réaménagement, et on sait que qui va rester et qui va partir. Maintenant, on voit que la plupart des gens ont commencé à demander la régularisation foncière. Donc, ça permet déjà à améliorer la qualité urbaine de la ville de Djibouti, mais également à augmenter les recettes de l'État. Donc, en ce qui concerne les recettes foncières. Donc, pour ce qui concerne comment également, c'est-à-dire dans le futur, comment, donc dans les autres quartiers restants, il y a aussi d'autres quartiers qui vont être fait l'objet d'une politique de restructuration. Ça aussi, c'est dans les projets. Donc, l'État, donc, dans les politiques publiques de 2025 même, la priorité du logement, c'est une question fondamentale et centrale du gouvernement. Et je pense que les efforts vont être continués pour permettre à l'ensemble de la population d'accéder à un logement, mais également d'avoir un foncier qui est sûr et sécurisé. Pour la question, comment cette question va être inscrite dans la stratégie du gouvernement, donc je pense que l'objectif, les efforts sont là. Donc, les projets, j'espère qu'il ne va pas s'arrêter parce que déjà, on est dans la phase préliminaire, on voit que les résultats sont...
And I think that in the regions, and so that we can allow all the regions and we try to centralize these regions for this service. And this will be continuously done, and we are going to have control over and in cooperation with the authorities. I'm going.
السلام عليكم. يسرى حلالي.
My name is Yusra Hulali. I'm a student here in Rabat. Before my question, I want to thank all the people or the organizers of this event. I am going to ask my question in Arabic. My question is, what are the tools used to fight and to stop the increase in slums, and also how to compensate the people? What we see now is that there is an increase in slums, although there is a huge work by the government in order to rebuild new places for those people to live in. What are the tools? Sometimes families benefit 2 times from the compensation. So how can we fight this phenomenon? In Morocco, we have an application in order to avoid the double compensation. Is there the same tool in other countries?
to close the session. Who would like to respond to the question? The question about procedures and measures that could be taken in advance to prevent the issue of informal settlements, because whatever we do to compact this issue, they appear again and again. So what would be implemented to prevent? So I believe proactive planning is one of the approaches to tackle this challenge.
So I can try to answer the question. أتكلم بالعربي. في مصر.
I am going to speak in Arabic. In Egypt, we have different funds. The fund of slum development, and there was a session about this subject and how unsafe zones in slums were developed in Egypt. There are different plans. People sometimes are displaced different places, or they stay in the same place after development. And whether those places are informal or deteriorated. This is the first part of the fund plan. It's the Urban Development Fund. So we have the existing informal settlements, and also there is a part dedicated to new cities, so we can open the door in front of new investment opportunities. People build informal settlements when they have no other alternative. So now we are going to offer the alternative, so for the informal settlements to decrease. In Egypt now we are trying to legalize or what are the trespasses that can be formal and the things that cannot be allowed. And were these efforts enough? The answer is no. We need more inclusive work, because when we only give people, we compensate them with a housing unit, but we don't think about the economic opportunities. So whether these units or housing units are equipped with transportation, employment, and other opportunities.
End of our session. Thank you for your participation, and thanks a lot for the esteemed speakers for their valuable contribution and for sharing their innovative practices around integrating urban planning governance, participatory planning, and also transforming informal settlements into livable spaces. Thank you so much.